Yeah, before we get into your non-physical attributes, let's look at Einstein's world vision again, where time changes when you approach a large mass. Well, time also slows down the faster you go. So if you want to see the future, get in a spaceship, travel near the speed of light, and when you come back, everything would have aged. You will be seeing the future, and it depends, of course, on how long you go and fast you go. Now, why does time change when you go fast? Well, think of this thought experiment. You have your friend who's going away on a vacation. He's going to take the train. So you ask him, would you mind when the train is going 100 miles an hour, get up to the front and see if you can't throw a ball ahead of the train 100 miles an hour, baseball. Now, forgetting about friction, then you would see that the ball goes 200 miles an hour. No problems there. But then, say, you stay behind, right? Your friend is on the train. Uh, Wait till the train goes 3/4 the speed of light. Then go up and throw the ball at 3/4 the speed of light. Well, how fast does the ball go then? It doesn't go 1.5 times the speed of light. The speed of light is constant, so it can't go. Nothing can go faster than the speed of light. 10 times 10 of the meters per second. Something's got to give. Velocity can't increase past that. So time has to go slower. Distance is equal to velocity times time. So that's why you can time varies. The faster you go. Now we also talked about what you're made of, how you got your atoms, and how you got your cells. So your atoms and your are a lot of them are 13.8 billion years minus 380,000 years. That's your hydrogen. And all the other atoms then are between 13 billion and 4.6 billion years old. So a lot of events had to happen for you to be here. Your mother and father had to meet, and then they had to produce you. And that gives you your DNA, half from your father and half from your mother. And then they had to meet. Their parents had to meet, your grandparents. And so you have all those events that had to happen for them to meet, and also you get 1/4 of your DNA from each of your grandparents. Over 100 years, that's say 4 generations, you get 16 different people that comprise your DNA. Over a million, that would be 16,000, and so on. And also, you landed up on the Earth, which is one of the, I think, 10 planets. Is it 10? Forget. And that's the right distance exactly from the sun. It's not too far out in the solar system. That would be covered with ice, and not too close and be too hot. So it's the Goldilocks planet you got on. That's good. And you're also on the only planet that we know that life exists so far, anyhow. And that's in a solar system that is in a galaxy with 200 billion stars, and most of those have that we know of all have planets. Most of them more than one. They have satellites now that go in and try to find planets that are like like the Earth, and in the Goldilocks position uh, by from the stars. And also look at if they can, look at the atmosphere, and if they see that there is water vapor and oxygen, we think of that would be the prerequisites for life. At least that's what we think. So far, we haven't discovered it. Now, there might have been life on Mars, but now the since Mars is smaller, the core has solidified, and it doesn't have the electromagnetic shield like as much as the Earth does. So, if there was any life there, it would probably is now extinct, or very uh, microbial, one-celled animals. And then the solar system, or I'm sorry, the Milky Way galaxy is one of 200 billion galaxies. And as I say, most of your atoms, not quite all of your atoms, but less than half of your atoms, come from events that happened in all those different galaxies and all those different stars over from 13 billion years to 4.6 billion years. So you could have a carbon atom in one finger that's 12 billion years old, another carbon atom in your other finger that is 6 billion years old, for instance. So a lot of different events happen in order for you to be here, in order for you to have your physical makeup. And of course, when you go back to the 1 second after the Big Bang, then you're lucky you had a billion to 1 chance of getting through there. Because for every billion antiparticles, there was only 1,000,000,001 particle, and you're made up of particles. You couldn't exist if you had antiparticles in you. And then during the first second, you have all your forces: the force of gravity, keep you on the ground; electromagnetic force that keeps you from falling into the ground or into the earth; the strong force, which keeps you from flying apart; and the weak force, which keeps you from being killed, if you want, from harmful radiation from the solar radiation and from the cosmic radiation from space, and keeps you from being bombarded by microbes. Not microbes, but meteorites, meteors, asteroids, and comets. And then, of course, the universe. As far as we know, it's just this one universe. No one's gone to another universe and come back and talk about it. So all those events then had to occur for you to be here. So that's how you got here and how long it took you and when you get here. Where are you? Where are you? Well, on the spectrum, very minute occupation. You occupy a very small space, somewhere between 1.6 times 10 to the minus 35, i.e. one Planck length, up to several million or several billion light years. So you're only occupy a small part of space and time for that matter. So science then can't quite tell you exactly how the world works. It has two different theories, both of which seem to work quite well, except again when you try to explain black holes or the beginning of the universe. The other thing science is not too can't understand is why everything is exactly the way it is. Why is the different forces and different constants exactly what they are? Otherwise, the universe and you wouldn't exist. An example: why is the force of gravity the way it is? If it was any less, it couldn't have brought together, attracted all the hydrogen atoms, and then they wouldn't have formed the stars, and hence all your atoms and you. If it were any stronger, then after the hydrogen was created, it would have drawn them back in and have a big crunch. And again, you you couldn't exist. The other thing is, and Einstein had this in his general theory of relativity, a lambda, and that is called the cosmological constant, and that is a constant that allows the universe to expand or contract. He took it out because he thought, like everybody else, that the universe is just like it is. It doesn't expand, it doesn't contract. He called that his biggest mistake in his career, and the biggest mistake was, of course, thinking that that it was that wasn't needed. Now they figure, okay, since the universe is expanding, therefore it should slow down and go back into a big crunch. So they measured it, and to their surprise, found out that not only is the universe not slowing down, it's accelerating. So it's speeding up. Why is that? There must be something, other energy, other than gravity, that's pulling things apart or making it go faster. Don't know what it is. So they say it's dark energy. And it consists of 75% of the universe. They hypothesize that it's needed because to explain why the universe is accelerating. They hypothesize that maybe space is not empty. It's comprised of virtual matter and virtual antimatter, virtual particles and antiparticles. And when particles and antiparticles come together, they form energy, or they annihilate each other, form energy. And as the universe expands, there's more space. Therefore, the more particles and virtual antiparticles. Whereas the matter, which is what gives you the force of gravity, stays the same. So as space expands, you get more and more dark energy. And that counteracts the gravity, just trying to pull things back. And so you're getting more and more dark energy. The universe is expanding. The other thing that you quite don't understand is the amount of matter isn't correct either. There must be at least 4 times as much matter, around 4 times as much matter as they can observe. It's certain phenomena can't be explained by the amount of matter or the amount of gravity that matter would create. Now, when a skater spins, when he puts his arms out, or she puts her arms out, goes slower. When she pulls her arms in, she goes faster. But when they look at how the stars on the outside of a galaxy, the rim of a galaxy, spin around the center, which is normally a black hole, it does not compute. You need more gravity, hence you need more matter. Don't know what it is, can't see it, it doesn't react to the electromagnetic radiation or shield, like vision or X-rays. And it isn't composed of quarks, atoms, molecules. Complete mystery. So they call it dark matter. And that comprises about 20% of the universe. So here's science claiming to know everything. At least some people. It can't even know the world vision. It can't make up its mind, if you like. There's 2 different world visions, totally incompatible. And it can only, it's in the dark for 95% of the universe. It's in the dark. It only partially explains 5%. The other thing that science can't quite understand. Why can you get all these laws and all these formulas and mathematics, eke them out from the universe? Like before 1905, you had the law of conservation of energy, the law of conservation of matter. You had Newton's law of gravity, Newton's law of motion. You had thermodynamic laws, and you had Boyle's law, Child's law, etc. And after 1905, you got Einstein's general theory and Einstein's special theory, and of course all the math of quantum field theory. So all these laws and mathematics stemming from reality, stemming from the universe? Or is it the other way around? The universe is coming from is created from the laws. Now we don't quite have the laws aren't all compatible, if you want to call it. And once, I think it was Einstein said this, once you get the quantum theory of gravity, so that you have one explanation of how the world works, then maybe you would know the mind of God. So it points to the fact that maybe that reality is being created by something or someone, or by the laws. We create reality, humans do. We call it virtual reality. There's concerts now where they have concerts of performances that an artist has done before they died, a long time ago. And they're up on stage and you see them as virtual reality. They're holograms. The only problem is with that, you don't know whether you should clap at the end or not, because of course they're dead. So, so we can create reality. Now, I think you need something a little smarter and more powerful, and something happening everywhere uh, to create the universe. Something, say, omnipotent, something omniscient, something omnipresent. In other words, happening everywhere. So, science does not have the answers for everything. Also, as I said before, we've looked at how you got here physically, when. But what about those attributes, what you are, over and above the uh, physical? So say you have a mind, you have thoughts, you have personality, you have interrelationships. Now, can you, is that, can be explained by science? Well, you might ask the scientist then, how many quarks is there in a thought? Or can you create a piece of my mind in the laboratory? There was an experiment done by Persinger, I think it was, in Laurentian University. Uh, that's in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. Where he had students, and unbeknownst to what the students were doing, what the experiment was for, he put helmets on them. Started off with hockey helmets with magnets to measure the brain waves. Then he isolated them in an isolation booth, devoid of any ambient electromagnetic charges and any of these senses of sound, sight, and touch. Couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't feel. And he looked at the brain waves, found that the brain waves on the left side of the brain were shutting down, and the brain waves on the right side of the brain were becoming more active. So then when he brought the students out and asked them what they had experienced, 4 out of 5 said they experienced all sorts of phenomena. They had out-of-body experiences where they seemed to depart from their body. They felt that someone was beside them or behind them. They saw a white tunnel of light. Some said they thought they saw demonic creatures. A few said they saw God. And the helmet's been nicknamed the God helmet as a result of that. So is there a separate domain, separate from the physical? The science looks at it's a reductionism. It breaks things down into the components and sees how they all fit together and how they work. Whereas your mind, or if you want to call it your spiritual side, your spirits, transcend the physical, expand beyond the physical. Now, most humans, human civilization at least, have always thought that there is, no matter time and place and culture, always thought there is something beyond the physical, something beyond themselves. Columbus sailed the ocean blue, 1492, I think. Came to the Americas and he found his crew was starving, so he asked the Indians for some food. They said, no, thank you. So he told them. And the Indians thought that the inanimate objects had spirits as well. The moon would disappear and show that the anger of the gods or spirits for not giving him food. And when the lunar eclipse happened in 4 days, he told them it's going to happen in 4 days. And when the lunar eclipse happened in 4 days, he got his food. Now, at least the Western world would think that's superstition, right? But is it much different than the science saying that everything is a wave before it can be converted into a particle? And many religions have the same fundamental belief. A lot of them have different practices, and some of them are so fundamental that they don't think the other people that practice a different religion are wrong. They think they're wrong and they're right. One of the most fundamental religions is the Islamic State, that practiced by the Islamic State. And when I think Sullivan from the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Company, went over and interviewed a prisoner from in Iraq from the Islamic State, he said that if you believe in Abraham, your religion acknowledges Abraham, then you may be just asked to leave if you don't follow all our practices. But if you don't leave and you don't you don't get an option of not doing all the practices of their religion, and it dictates not only what they think, what they say, and what they wear and what they do. And anything different is dealt with severely. For instance, if a woman doesn't, they are sold into slavery if they're under 40 years old, or and the men chop their heads off sometimes. And also, if they say anyone says anything against their leader, Muhammad, then they are tracked down no matter where they go. And you're not given the option of leaving, You're tracked down. And if you have any relatives left behind, watch out for your relatives too. But in the modern times, at least, we're getting more ecumenical. In the Christian religion, all the different religions say, yes, we have different practices, but we basically have the ideology or the fundamental ideology the same. So we might want to continue on our own practicing our religion our own way, but nevertheless we don't demonize or villainize or say that everyone else is necessarily incorrect. And of course, if you go to some Eastern religions like Zen Buddhism, they practice divorcing their mind from the physical. They transcend through transcendental meditation the world of the mind, or if you want to call it spiritual, versus the world of the physical. And by the way, when you do practice TM, transcendental meditation, your brain waves do change. And those people don't necessarily practice any, if you want, formal religion, still would say that they believe in the spiritual world or in spirituality. They believe that there's something greater than themselves, something beyond the physical. So, the right brain, perhaps when given a chance, and you shut down your left brain, can contact the other realm of reality. In one sense, religion, the science, points to the need for the spiritual or religion. For instance, how does it start? Yes, if, as in dividing by zero, you get infinite, then you have, at the time equals zero, you have something infinite that creates the finite. And then you have something all powerful, omnipotent, all forces together. And by the way, when I say all hell breaks loose at time equals zero, well, maybe you could say all heaven breaks loose. And then you need the to change the waves into the particles. If it's like the light experiment with the two slit experiments, there has to be something there to observe or measure everywhere to change all the waves in the universe to particles, or to the universe itself, to matter. And as I say, all the constants and seem to point to, can point to, the need for someone, a creator, to have it exactly the way it should be. For instance, when they measured the cosmological constant, and they theorized it from math, from science, they wrote by 10 to the 120th, deriving from their laws and from the science the theoretical value for lambda, or the cosmological constant, was 10 to the 120th times larger than the actual. And if it were that large, of course, everything would fly apart, including your molecules and atoms. So it doesn't, science cannot predict that correctly. So why is the cosmological constant the way it is, rather than the way they think it should be? Is there some design involved that has designed the universe so that you can exist? So here then, we do not have, science does not have an answer for everything, and if anything, with some of the fundamental questions, it's in the dark, and cannot then very dispute the need for, is any position, let's put that way, to counteract that there is a world outside of the physical, or because when you come against something you can't understand, or you think you will never understand, you say, only God knows. When something happens or doesn't happen that otherwise be detrimental, you say, thank God that happens, or thank God that doesn't happen. For instance, you could say, thank God there's gravity, because that keeps me grounded, keeps me on the earth. But thank God the electromagnetic charge is greater than the force of gravity. Otherwise, I and everything else would sink down into the center of the earth in a black hole or a singularity. And God only knows what that is. Thank God the strong force is greater than the electromagnetic force, otherwise you fly apart. Thank God that the for over, for every hundred for every 100 million or every billion antiparticles, there is an extra particle left over. Otherwise, you would blow up if you had antiparticles. And by the way, when they try to take it back into the lab, always get, when they change energy into matter, they always get the equal number of particles and antiparticles. So it's a mystery why that happened at one time equal 1 second. And then you could thank God for all the events that went through in the 13 billion to 4.6 billion years that created your molecules and your atoms, some from one star and one galaxy, and some from another star and another galaxy. A host of events. And thank God as you go down. Thank God for this. Thank God for that. A multitude of thanks. So whether you think there is take it literally, and there is a design involved, and there is something that's looking after you, converting you from waves into matter, everywhere and at all times. Or whether you think it is a random accidents, fortuitous as they may be, that has enabled you to exist, or it's nevertheless miraculous that you are here. Why are you here? You are a miracle. End of story.